Welcome. Do you live in far northeast Ward 7? Does your neighborhood have problems with flooding? Join us as we explore outcomes and options from the Silver Jackets' new Watts Branch Flood Risk Management Study, which was discussed in Part 1 of Module 4. In addition to revising area flood maps, the study evaluated several flood risk reduction measures to determine how effective they might be and the general cost. These strategies included large-scale public works projects, blue-green infrastructure networks, and targeted non-structural flood-proofing, which will be described in this module. Each of these strategies has inherent challenges. Any that move forward will require a different level of planning and investment. Watts Branch starts in Prince George's County, Maryland, and winds its way through the Northeast District neighborhoods of Lincoln Heights, Holbrook, Deanwood, Central Northeast, Eastland Gardens, and Mayfair on its way to joining the Anacostia River. The Watts Branch watershed, or the area of land where water drains into Watts Branch, covers about 4 square miles. Increased development of the Watts Branch watershed has made it more vulnerable to flooding. Where Watts Branch crosses roadways, water flowing through the stream must pass through underground pipes, also known as culverts. Many of these culverts were designed to carry stormwater flows from moderate rainfall and not from larger events like the 100-year storm. When there's a large storm, the rainwater can overwhelm the culverts, causing water to back up and flood areas upstream. One of the areas with highest flood risk is the I-95 underpass at Kenilworth Avenue, which was greatly impacted during the 2020 summer flood. Currently, the Dean Avenue pump station helps remove floodwater from this area. The team looked at the potential for increasing the amount of water the pump station could remove from the street, known as the capacity. Preliminary analysis showed that increasing pump station capacity could move water off the road faster after a storm, but would not eliminate flooding in the area. This type of project would also require extensive upgrades to the overall stormwater pipe network, which would be costly and take many years to implement. The community should be aware of flood risk in this area and avoid it during and after intense rain events, until the current pump station has cleared the water from the roadway. The largest scale and most effective alternative that was considered is a network of blue-green infrastructure to safely store and convey floodwater through the watershed. This approach combines ecosystem-based technologies that reduce and clean polluted water with a master planning strategy to integrate sites and maximize flood storage. This alternative, known as the Cloudburst Concept Plan, or CCP, would focus on controlling how water flows over land, rather than relying on construction of large, expensive pipes underground. To develop the preliminary CCP plan, the Silver Jackets team worked closely with Ramboll, a global engineering and design company. Constructing a comprehensive blue-green infrastructure network would modify the floodplain, and 159 buildings, or 40% of the buildings, would no longer be impacted by a 100-year flood. However, the blue-green infrastructure would be expensive, and it would take many years to implement all the projects included in the CCP. This alternative, however, provides several other benefits, such as road improvements and the creation of public green spaces that improve quality of life. The CCP could also be implemented in phases. Therefore, the team recommends the district consider a more detailed cloudburst management study, with substantial input from local partners and stakeholders, to identify the highest risk areas for priority implementation. A floodwall levee system is another alternative under consideration to keep the Watts Branch from overflowing. Based on physical constraints of the terrain and issues with flashy flooding, the team developed a floodwall levee system concept along the existing Marvin Gaye Trail between H.D. Woodson High School and 61st Street Northeast. With innovative design, the floodwall levee system could provide both flood risk management and recreational features such as park benches or trail extensions. Cost estimates for the preliminary design concept are mid-range compared to other alternatives. This plan would adjust the floodplain so that 56 buildings behind the levee would no longer be impacted by the 100-year flood. However, the results of the modeling also showed that the floodwall levee system would modify where floodwater would flow, increasing flood levels up to a half a foot downstream. Therefore, this alternative requires further engineering analysis and potential combination with other flood reduction measures. The flood wall could also negatively impact views of Watts Branch and recreational access, and may require the removal of several roadways and buildings. Flooding can also be reduced by widening choke points, or portions of the Watts Branch that have been narrowed by development. One such choke point occurs in Nanny Helen Burroughs Avenue, near the middle of the Watts Branch study area. The existing culvert, running parallel to Nanny Helen Burroughs Avenue between 49th Street Northeast and 51st Street Northeast, was not designed to convey storm flows for large storms like the 100-year. Therefore, during significant rainfall, water can back up and cause flooding on the roadway. Building a second culvert adjacent to the existing structure could expand the capacity and convey more water through this area, reshaping the 100-year flood zone so that 46 buildings would no longer be impacted. The preliminary concept layout of the secondary culvert was estimated to have a higher price tag than the flood wall levee system. While the culvert could be located entirely underground, construction could present a major disruption to a main thoroughfare and its surrounding neighborhood. Another choke point is located under Dean Avenue, just before Watts Branch discharges into the Anacostia River. This area is National Park Service property. Flood modeling shows that water backs up behind this culvert during large storm events, impacting the Parkside Mayfair neighborhoods. The team assessed the potential for removing or substantially modifying the culvert, which would cost much less than the alternatives previously mentioned. Preliminary modeling showed that culvert changes would not significantly change the current 100-year floodplain. However, when considering longer-term flood risk related to climate change, it could provide benefits at a substantially lower cost than other alternatives. And it could modify the future 2080 100-year floodplain and reduce the risk to 36 buildings. A challenge to consider for this alternative is that the location of this culvert on land owned by the National Park Service may complicate project permitting. Therefore, future designs would have to align with the Park Service's natural and cultural resource management requirements. Finally, the team conducted a high-level assessment of the potential impact of non-structural floodproofing. Non-structural floodproofing can reduce flood risk to individual and multi-unit buildings. Several common techniques, including wet floodproofing, dry floodproofing, elevation, fulfilling basements, and property buyouts were considered. These techniques were discussed further in Module 2. Floodproofing can be an effective risk reduction strategy at a comparatively lower cost. It can also be implemented more quickly than large infrastructure projects. However, the feasibility of non-structural floodproofing is based on a case-by-case analysis of structural reliability and resource availability for both the property owner and local government. The study recommends conducting a more detailed analysis to learn how implementing non-structural floodproofing in combination with larger measures can provide additional benefits to the study area. Thank you for your time. Understanding options for future investments to reduce flood risk in Far Northeast Ward 7 means you are well equipped to get involved. Add your voice to the decision-making process. Help your community and the district government make sound, informed, and risk-ready decisions on infrastructure investments.